Hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And given the MeToo movement and just in general, the idea that we are all equal, men and women, the general trend of that, to try to achieve that, I have been wondering about how that is likely to end up, what it might look like in the future. And for many of you, it might be like, well, duh, we're going to be more equal. One day, women are going to be just as likely to be presidents and CEOs of companies and doctors and lawyers and everything else at the same rates that men are going to be. That's what's going to happen. Well, really? I don't know that is really how it's going to end up. In order to think about that, let's look at a couple of examples. And of course, none of these are really can directly be looked at as how things are going to end up. But for me, it's interesting. So let's say, for example, let's look at racial equality. You would think, and many people think, that everything is equal between the races, let's say in the developed countries specifically, let's say America, the UK, France, wherever it is. And that's not really the case. If you look across many different markers with respect to health, with respect to life expectancy, with respect to jobs and whatever. And if we specifically look to the US, they say there was one report that said that racial equality had not advanced since the 1980s. So there's that. If you look at how gender relations worked, for example, in one very extreme case, of course, is with respect to there's a fish that at very deep sea fish, like in very depths of the sea, in one of these zones where there's very little light. And the way that these fish have evolved, and again, this is an extreme example, is that when the male fish, who is much smaller than the female, eventually finds a female fish, he burrows into the flesh of the female, and that's it. They become the same entity, and maybe he dissolves away and just his reproductive organs exist. Maybe that's what happens. Of course, that's an extreme example. I think with respect to females in that species, a female can end up with several different males embedded inside of her. And yeah, I guess that's kind of extreme. But my point is that, okay, if we look at it like this, from an evolutionary point of view, which for me has always had a lot of weight, women are always 100% sure that they have reproduced a copy of themselves, or they have sexually reproduced. Unfortunately, it's sad, yes, but men always have a doubt in their mind: is this kid mine? Thankfully, for most men, it's not really a big issue. But from an evolutionary point of view, and this doesn't even have to come down to the level of cognition. For a woman, this is my kid, and I've expended 9 months into this kid of my body, and my body is, for many women, wrecked. I might have had, especially if you're in a developing country or a very low-income country, you might be incontinent. And that's actually even in that means that you can't hold your urine. So, and that actually even happens for women in developed countries. You might have a fistula. You should look that up. It's really kind of unfortunate. And women really do bear the effects of having kids. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. If you look at Kim Kardashian, it's a danger to her life for her to have any more kids herself. That's why her and Kanye have had to resort to using surrogates going forward. But what it all means is that a woman is more invested in reproducing, so she's always going to have more of an interest in paying more attention to her children. It makes more sense. If you invest more, then you're going to have an interest in having your kids become successful more than a guy does. A guy, engages in sexual intercourse with a woman, and as far as he's concerned, he's done. Not really. There's a lot of very good fathers, etc. But really, from what's this worth to you? If a kid does not turn out well, what that means for a woman is that she has a very limited number of offspring that she can have. And it means that she's wasted her opportunities. She's wasted all of this, the 9 months that she's had to endure, the damage done to her body, all of this she's had to endure, and you are not successful in having a kid and having grandkids, etc. So women will always, from an evolutionary point of view, have more to lose by not investing more into the rearing of children. Now, that said, there's a benefit that, kids are more likely to take care of their mother because their mothers and spent so much more time with them. They've had more of a bond. And again, that's because a woman has invested more resources into a kid than a guy. But it means that a guy has much more to invest in many other things, to invest in business, because, and again, this is completely from an evolutionary point of view. For a guy to spend time helping to rear a kid that evolutionary wise you are not 100% certain is your kid, is time that you could spend trying to court another female and impregnating her. From an evolutionary point of view, men are better off cheating and impregnating other females and spending time fighting with other males in order to gain prominence and notoriety from females that are like, okay, this is a high level male. He has conquered other males and he has a lot of resources because of the power that he has over other males. And males look up to him, females look up to him. I should look up to him. I should try to get with him. And once I do, since I've invested so much in my kid, in having this kid and the damage done to my body, in the 9 months that it takes for me to reproduce just the one kid, I better pay attention to the kid. So, from a purely evolutionary point of view, it doesn't seem that we're ever going to get to that quote-unquote equality that we have been looking for, that we were hoping that we could achieve. Because, whether you're in China or in Asia, in Southern, or whether you're in Europe, whether you're in South America, wherever we've gone, men have been consistently bigger than women. Of course, because they have to fend and deal with other males in order to gain resources and power, etc. So it's better for them to be bigger. For women, it's better to be smaller so that men don't see you as a threat the way that they see other men as a threat, and they're more likely to take care of you. when we've had millions of years of a particular trend, I don't think that we're going to be able to simply buck that trend and go in a different direction and end up with the kind of equality that we're thinking of. And that's not to say that I don't want that. That's just to say that it seems really difficult to change millions of years of evolution because it doesn't seem right. It could be that we might end up, having kids in bags, like a man and his wife. They don't even need a surrogate, because that's happening right now. If you look at it, I think they're trying to rear cows and other animals, and that would be very useful. If you can have a kid in not in a human being, that would be helpful to women. They would be able to not have to deal with the 9 months of pregnancy, and they would have genetic tests, and it would be less likely that we would have the suffering caused by kids that have different genetic diseases, and women who are perhaps drinking or smoking or whatever the case might be, or just not taking care of themselves. We would have, but that is, number one, very far off. I don't see that happening very soon. I can't even imagine how long that would take culturally for us to accept that. It is already taken long for surrogacy to be an idea. So, but if it does happen, and especially in poor countries, that is not going to happen anytime soon. So, I don't know. And the thing about it is, as long as we're on this trend, and it's even beyond evolution, it's not beyond evolution really. What I mean is, women prefer big men and men prefer small women. And that alone in life makes it difficult for a woman. And I don't mean that I feel that it is difficult. I mean that it seems practically objectively more difficult for a woman to intimidate a man. And unfortunately, part of being a leader is intimidating and striking awe into your subordinates to a degree, whether it's by your intelligence, and it really often just comes down to your physical features, your physical presence. You could be as smart as whatever, but if you're a tiny short guy, I'm gonna say, what is it? A little person. Yeah, like if you're a little person, I don't see many little person CEOs. But at the same time, I see a lot of CEOs who are really tall. Is it that being tall makes you smarter? I don't think so. I think that tall people gain an advantage that they can use to be in powerful positions because of that. Anyway, this has gone on really long, and wish me lucks. So you can like, unlike, comment, subscribe, and or share, and I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.